Good evening. Hello, hello. How are you? Let me know who you are in the chat. I see somebody is waiting. Welcome. This is Coach Doreen here. And I'm really excited. This is like second live here on YouTube. It's trying out my new platform and so forth. So I'm really excited to do this. All right. And I know it's like a minute early. So I'm going to wait for some people to come in and so forth. Um, and we're going to have a good discussion today. And we're going to be talking about the devotional that the GAC Health and Fitness is doing, which is on YouVersion, is basically how to follow Jesus in your digital life. Because like I said before, the church, GAC, the Great Isle Cathedral, is focusing on innovation and technology. And I said, well, this is a great opportunity for us to be able to talk about technology and innovation, not only in a spiritual place, but also to figure out where we are as far as the technology we can use as far as our health. So I'm really excited to be able to share that with you. So I'm just going to wait a little bit longer. It's only 6 o'clock. Like I said, I just got started. I got on a little earlier just to see where we are. Okay. Nice. Okay, so people are texting me, letting me know that they're on their way. And hello. So please put yourself in the chat. Please let me know who you are and where you're from and how you're feeling today. All right. Who's here with me? Who's here with me? All right. Here we are coming on in. Okay. Who's here with me today? If you don't mind, just come on in and tell me hello in the chat. Let me know who you are and how you are feeling. All right. Before we get started, I want to get started too soon because I don't want to start and then have to start again. So again, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Coach Doreen, and I am part of the, you don't see the chat icon. It should be there. It says live chat, top chat. Or if you're a subscriber, you should be able to, chime in. All right. Okay, so I see that 2 people are here. You should be able to come on in and chat. If not, but you can see me. Okay, so if you are subscribed to me, you should be able to answer in. If not, I'm not sure why. But like I said, this is my first time actually doing this again. So I'm still learning how to do this. So if you guys can like help me out, give me some reactions, all that good stuff. All right. Cool. All right. But nonetheless, we are going to give them a couple more minutes. So for everyone who actually prayed for me during my colonoscopy this past week, right? But I am appreciative. Hey, Cheryl, there you are. Thank you so much. She found me. Yay, Cheryl. Thank you. For those of you who prayed for me during my colonoscopy this past week, thank you so much. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. You know, everyone was saying the worst thing that was going to be was the drink, right? But it really wasn't that bad. The drink was flavored, so it was berry. And so I was able to drink it with water. They told me to put it in the refrigerator. So I did that. And so therefore I was able to get through it. So all I can say is I am so glad that is over. All right. So another thing that I want to try, right, while we're on, is that I want to be able to see if I can share my screen. So if you have had the opportunity, for those of you who are in the GAC fitness ministry, you should have received an email from me that has the actual YouVersion devotional in it. All right. And we're going to be doing the introduction today. So if you were able to open that up, if you were able to read it and you got a chance to go through it, if you could just get in the chat and let me know, say, hey, I did it, or no, I didn't, but that's fine too. All right. So we're going to be talking about that today. And it's basically, again, I want to give my son, Donovan Lewis, a shout out because he is really like one of the main people who had me really look into this because, with this crazy political season that we've been in, he's always been on me about, hey, mom, you are only looking at one side of the story and you are not hearing the other side. So, how we are, it's like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. You're a young person. But once I started reading this devotional, I was like, you know what, he may have a point here. And after going through it a few times, I was like, yeah, this is pretty good. This is pretty good. So it is definitely something that we can look into. And then, after our discussion, we're just going to talk about health and health innovation and technology, talking about, the things that we use. And I'm going to give you some things. There's some interesting things that I found that you can use your technology for. And it all based is like, what are your goals as far as what you are trying to track? All right. So with that said, let's see if I am able to share a screen here. Let's see if it's going to help me to do that. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. We're trying to try something different here. Let me see if I can get it here. Nope, it's not coming up. But also, too, I'm also waiting to see if anyone else was in the chat. Are you able to chat? If you are able to chat, just come on in because it would make it a lot easier, a little bit more interesting if I will be able to share with you what it is that I'm doing and not feeling so much like I am talking to myself. So if you could do that, that would be really, really great if you could do that. All right. And meanwhile, I am looking for this thing here. There it is. Let's see if I can open it up and put it in a window where we can all see it. Because again, I am still learning this beautiful platform. And let's see if it'll work. Let's see. All right. Yes, it's going to work. Now, so my next question is, I'm hoping that you will be able to see the screen. All right. Hopefully you'll be able to see the screen. Share my screen. All right. So right here is talking about how to follow Jesus in your digital life. I'm hoping that you can see the screen. If not, it's going to be a problem. And then when I see this video later, I'm going to be real mad. But anyway, here we go. We're going to give it a try. Go see the video later. Again, thank you for joining me today in how to follow Jesus in your digital life as we are talking about our how we are as following Jesus in our digital life and how we are seeing things from a different perspective. So anyway, this is the introduction, right? And if anyone actually got a chance to look at it, it really does bring up a lot of stuff that we already pretty much know, right? That we are aware that most of our digital content that we're consuming is coming to us carefully curated and perfectly personalized, right? So we all know about the algorithms, and we all know sometimes we think that not only can our devices see us, but we think that they can hear us too, right? And it just might be very true because you know how we start looking for things, right? And then all of a sudden, right, it's like all of a sudden that it's like you start looking for things, and then all of a sudden everywhere, even on Facebook, Instagram, you start seeing all sorts of like ads for something that you were just looking up, right? And it's like, well, wait a minute, how did that happen, and why is that happening? So it's a little bit scary, because it's like, okay, is it me? It's like when we ask ourselves, is it me, is it God, or is it the devil? Right? But then we have to ask ourselves, okay, is it me, is it God, or is it the algorithm in whatever it is that we're looking for? So it is become a little bit scary in a sense, right? So the other thing is, like, we realize that these things are personal marketing and personalized commercials wherever you go. Like, even like when I go to BJ's, right? I pick up something, and then all of a sudden I switch over to Facebook, and I'm seeing BJ's and they're trying to sell me something. All right. So again, hi Cheryl, hi Carol. Catherine says that she can see me if she can hear me, but I guess she's not able to get into the chat, but that's fine. All right. So we can chat later on the side. But again, it's good. We're good. We're all here. All right. So the other thing is that I was looking at that was really interesting is, like, because they're saying that we are often exposed to one side of an argument or a conversation, and they're saying not just a few times but over and over again. It's like, and we are creatures of habit. We have to admit that we watch the same TV station, we watch the same newscasters, we might watch the same soap operas or whatever. We are creatures of habit, and because of that, they know that we are conditioned only to hear the our side or our opinion. So I put this in red, basically, that we have to be careful of this, because that means that we are being conformed to this world and causing us to pick sides on, not necessarily something that's not necessary. Right. So we're not only being encouraged to engage, we're not encouraged to actually engage with the other side or the division, and even hatred is fueled, as we can see, as you're going back and forth, like on social media and so forth, right? We are seeing that people are saying hateful things. They start, it's like, if people are losing relationships, right? People are not being friends. People are leaving churches. This is like crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So I thought that was like very interesting. It's like, well, yeah, well, how much of it really is us? Or is it that we are being conformed? Or is it that we are being conditioned to only hear our side? So one of the things that came up when I was looking at this, right, not only was he talking about Proverbs 11, which would say, whoever belittles his neighbor lacks sense, right? What came to mind for me was Isaiah 1 and 18 from The Voice, that says, come on now, let's walk and talk. Let's work this out. Your wrongdoings are blood red, but they can turn as white as snow. Your sins are like crimson, but they can be made clean again like wool. So the main part of that scripture for me was like, come on, let's walk and talk. Let's work this out. But unfortunately, where we are in our social media and everyone is picking sides and it's getting really ugly out there, we're not sitting down to figure out, like, okay, why are you so angry? Why do you believe that, what you believe? We're not taking an opportunity to do that. So the other one that came to mind while I was reading this a few days, it was like Joshua 5:13-14 in the Message. And then this, while Joshua was there near Jericho, he looked up and saw right in front of him a man standing, holding his drawn sword. And Joshua stepped up to him and said, whose side are you on? Ours or our enemies? And he said, neither. I'm commander of God's army. I've just arrived. So with that, I was saying to myself, I was like, when people are like, what side are you on? Who did you vote for? Whatever. Our response needs to be Joshua's response, right? It needs to be our response. It's basically, it's like whatever the angel had said. It's like, I'm I'm on neither side. I am a part of God's army. I'm on God's side. So that's basically the response. And our orders is like, what orders does my master have for his servant? So we need to ask God, it's like, whose side are we on? Does either side matter? And in the end, we have to make sure that we are part of God's side, right? We need to be on God's side, right? So here we are. I don't even know if this is like moving with you guys. Is it moving? Yes, it is. Okay, just making sure. All right. So the other part that was very interesting as we're going through this digital life thing, right, was the dark side of this curation tool may be abused or manipulated to sway public opinion on the matters of utmost importance, whether by political parties, various social groups, the companies themselves, or even like the bot farms. And that, I thought that was dangerous too, because it's like, well, whose agenda is really following through here, right? So, like with Matthew 12:25 in the Easy English Bible, it says, Jesus knew what the Pharisees were thinking. So he said to them, if armies in a country fight each other, then they will destroy their own country. If people in one city or in one family fight each other, then they will destroy their own city or family. So to me, us being on either side and just battling each other, it really sounds like the enemy. The enemy wants to come in and steal, kill, and destroy. The only way that he can do that basically is to make us divide ourselves among ourselves, comparing ourselves among ourselves. We are fighting each other, right? So, how can, if we're fighting each other, how can we stand? How can we be in agreement? When are we going to even be able to sit down, right, and figure out, okay, how do you feel? Why do you feel this way? And then have compassion. I was like, okay, well, you feel this way because of this, and I feel this way because of that. Can we agree to disagree? Or is it really, really that serious? Because right now things are getting really, really ugly. And we as Christians, it's like, well, are we supposed to be a part of that? Right. So again, it's just making us sit back and think. It's like, well, whose side are we on? Right? Do we really have to pick sides? Right? And what is the purpose of us fighting back and forth like this? So there was like three or four questions that said, what conversations being discussed on your digital platforms matter most to you, right? And what side of the conversation do you often see in your feed? Right. So again, is it based on conversations? Is it based on our engagement? Are they watching us to the point where they're seeing what side we're clicking on, or what side or what we're interested in, and then all of a sudden they're feeding our news feeds, feeding Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or whatever, with those things that they're figuring out that we are interested in. So again, it's causing us to only see one side of the conversation. We're only seeing all the things that are going on in our house, right? But not necessarily what is going on in somebody else's house, right? So I found that interesting. The other question was, instead of honestly and gracefully engaging with those on the other side, what do you typically do instead? Right? I know for me, all right, I know that I was like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. They didn't hear this, and I can't believe they thought that. That's again causing division. All right. So how, if you can go into the chat, I probably have to change the chat next time so that more people can engage. I might have a timer on it next time. I will fix that so that it'll just be open. All right. But I would be interested to know, it's like, when you hear the other side of something that may not necessarily be what you agree with, how are you responding? All right. Are you gracefully engaging, being honest, or does it turn into a fight or into an argument? Right. And the other thing that it says is like, what ways do you see hatred and division all around you in the digital world? Right. And who do you think benefits from this? Right. And in what ways have you intentionally or unintentionally contributed to fuel to the fire? And basically, how does Jesus' teaching and Matthew 12:36 shape you in moving forward? Right. So he was saying, I've used the Message version, right, that says, you have minds like a snake pit. How do you suppose what you say is worth anything when you are so foul minded? It's your heart, not the dictionary, that gives meaning to your words. A good person produces good deeds and words season after season, and an evil person is a blight on the orchid. Let me tell you something. Every one of these careless words is going to come back to haunt you. There will be a time of reckoning. Words are powerful. Take them seriously. Words can be your salvation. Words can also be your damnation. Now, that kind of reminded me because, again, God said that we are going to be responsible for every idle word that comes out of our mouths. And this season and this social media, if you put the wrong things out there, as we can see, it is there. They're going to find that post. They're going to, duplicate it. They're going to pinpoint it. They may even edit it. But, it's really interesting, and you have to be careful. And Cheryl, you're right. You listen to both sides and you don't respond. And sometimes that is the best way to go. Sometimes silence is golden. It's like, okay, that's how you feel. Okay, fine. What do you think? I don't have an opinion. I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. I ain't saying nothing. Because again, these people are, from what I understand as well, people are getting either hired or fired because of what they're saying on social media. If you put in an application, people are saying that they're like, oh, you have a Facebook account, oh, you have Instagram, oh, you have TikTok, let's go see what you're about. Right. So it's no more just coming in and handing an application and putting on, airs when you are sitting in front of someone for a job. They're basically doing a grounds check to see what kind of media or stuff, social media stuff that you're putting on. So again, it's really coming to pass. It's really coming to true that your words can be your salvation and words can also be your damnation. So we have to really be careful about what we're saying, how we're saying it, where is that thought coming from, right? So that was the thing that I started thinking about, right? They had given us like the scriptures, Proverbs 11:5, right? That said, the righteousness of the blameless keeps his way straight, but the wicked falls by his own wickedness. Proverbs 11:12, that said, whoever belittles his neighbor lacks sense, but a man of understanding remains silent. And then the last one they gave was Proverbs 29:11. A fool gives full vent to his spirit, but a wise man quietly holds it back. I think that we need to be the wise man and quietly hold it back, right? So the things that came up for me, really, when I started thinking about this, is like, well, if all of this is this serious, right? How much of this are we being really conformed to this world, right? Are we being conformed because of social media and our heights of emotions, right? How is it transforming our mind? Yes, to a certain degree, but is it going to be toward God, or is it going to be toward the world and how the world is seeing things? So that means like it says, we have to test it. We have to discern what is the will of God and what is good and acceptable and perfect in his sight. So again, it's like, as we are feeling our feelings, right? And we are seeing what we're seeing and hearing, it is what we are hearing, right? We have to really step back and say, it's just like, like in the health world, right? Again, as we start talking, we're going to be talking more about how to use digital innovation to find the right research for things, right? And so then it's like, when you're looking at like the research, the first thing that I know as a coach, when we're looking at research to see where it's coming from, is like, well, who funded the study? Who funded the study? Because again, if the person who is like, quote unquote, milk does the body good, the milk company, the cows and all that, those are the ones who are funding the study. So again, when we're looking at our news, our social media and so forth, we have to figure out who's funding the study. Who's funding, right? Who is initiating the conversation? What is the purpose? What are they trying to do? Is it dividing? Is it good? Is it acceptable? Is it perfect? Is it positive, or is it dividing? We have to step back, right? And we have to figure out, okay, we have to test it. It's like we test spirits. Now we got to test everything. We got to test the social media, because there was a couple of times that somebody sent me something and I'm looking at it as ooh, that sounds good. And I shared it. And then Facebook came back and said, what you're sharing is not true. And so therefore, Therefore, I have to take it down and I have to send an apology. Ooh, sorry, this is not true. All right, it's been fact checked and it's not right. It's crazy, right? And Live for JC said, good point. Who's funding the study? What's their intention? Absolutely. Carol is like, she doesn't engage in negative social media, right? Cheryl is saying she listens to both sides. Yeah, we're gonna have to do our due diligence and say, oh, that sounds really good. And if we get a check in our spirit, it's like, I think I'm going to hold off and not share that just yet. I'm going to wait. All right. So then James 3:2 to 12. This is like a long one. Right. And I think I have some notes. Oh yeah. I have my notes. Yay. Don't forget my notes. All right. So, going back to the questions, we'll go back in a second. But James 3:2 through the 12 ESV was saying we all stumble in many ways. And if anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is a perfect man, able to bridle his own body. If we put bits into the mouths of horses so that they obey us, we guide their whole bodies as well. Look at the ships also. Though they are so large and driven by strong winds, they are guided by a very small rudder wherever the will of the pilot directs. So also the tongue is a small member, yet it boasts of great things. How a forest is set ablaze by such a small fire, and the tongue is a fire, a world of unrighteousness. The tongue is set among our members, staining the whole body, setting on fire the entire course of life, and setting on fire by hell. So basically, as we go on, especially like in verse 10, from the same mouth come blessing and cursing, right? My brothers, these things ought not to be so. Does a spring pour forth from the same opening both fresh and salt water? Can a fig tree, my brothers, bear olives, or a grapevine produces figs? Neither can a salt pond yield fresh water. So again, going back up to these questions, right? It's like we have to really figure out, where is the information coming from? What's its intentions? Is it going to divide or is it going to bring us together? Right. So I did take an opportunity to answer the question, right? So it says, what conversations being discussed on digital platforms matter most to you? And what side of the conversations do you often see in your feed? And my answer was, like, I'm not on the digital platforms like discussing matters, but what I see is mainly about like what our current administration is doing and how it may affect us, right? And of course, we all look at it. And I think the first thing we start doing, especially if it's affecting us personally, is we panic. We're like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And our emotions get involved and this and that. And we start, firing off like, this is crazy. And I think it's really the whole thing, like when they start doing that, yes, it is bad, but I think the way that they do it is really to initiate fear, all right? False evidence appearing real. Some of that evidence may definitely be real, right? But how it affects us in the future is really like stirring up fear and anger and sadness, anxiety, and so forth. And so therefore, we don't know what to do. We're scrambling. So we just start blurting out words, right? And we have to remember that death and life is in the power of the tongue. And we cannot be repeating the negativity that is out there. As Christians, when we know that our tongue has authority, we have to say the opposite, right? It's like they're talking about this. It's like, well, not in my house. We're going to have abundance of supply. Whatever I need, God is going to supply it. It's like, God, if God does decide that he's going to cause me to be laid off or whatever, that means he got something better. But we cannot keep feeding into the fire the negativity, because that we shall have whatsoever we say. Did not Jesus say that? We shall have whatsoever we say. So we have to really kind of gauge in and not respond right away. We have to step back and say, feel our feelings, and then kind of be like, okay, what is this? Is it true? Is it right? We're going to get caught up. We cannot. Right. So the second question was, instead of honestly and gracefully engaging with those on the other side, what do you typically do instead? So right? What I said, my answer was, I gather my own opinions based on what my parents have said, what they experienced, and on history. So when we start hearing, things being canceled with DEI, especially those of us who have Southern roots, we know with the stories. Like my father used to tell me, he lived in Birmingham, Alabama, and he used to tell me about the things that was going on down there. And that's basically why he ended up moving up, moving from the South up to New York. And it's like this, it's crazy. Plus we see the history, right? We've heard the stories. Our parents, especially of African American descent, those who are immigrants, we know the story. So that we start hearing these things, we're like, oh my God, history is repeating itself. And so we, again, because we're probably, I'm not sure about the age limit here on this chat, or who is watching, but I know that when certain things were happening, I was like 3 years old. And I'm looking at stuff now and I'm like, I cannot believe that we're living almost like similar things to what our parents. Yes, things are better, but at the same time, we're like, I look at my children and they are really of the age, and I look at them, I said, Lord Jesus, they ain't ready for this. They don't know, they have no clue what it means, that the things that we're going for. So I guess they're looking at us like, I understand what you're saying, but I don't understand what you're saying. So again, we have to educate, but not instill fear. And I think that because we're feeling the fear, sometimes it's a little bit harder to not instill the fear, because we're trying to figure out ourselves how we go get through this, right? So Brenda Thompson was saying, yes, God will make a way out of no way. And that's the same thing that our ancestors were saying. It's like, okay, if they're not going to do this, then we're going to, pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and we're going to make a way. So in a sense, I heard a few people were saying, especially for African Americans, is like, well, okay, you guys are panicking, but we've been here before and we kind of pretty much know what to do. But again, our young people don't know what to do. So we're going to have to really school them, and again, not instill fear. So what do you guys think about what I just said? I would love to hear or see you in the chat. Let me know what you think about what I said about making sure that we are speaking God's word and God's promises over what is happening and over the negativity that we're seeing a lot in social media, right? And making sure that we are not feeding the fire by instilling fear in our conversations and in our opinions. And then also the other thing that we need to do is just making sure that what we are viewing is true, right? Is it good? Is it perfect? It is acceptable. Because again, what does God tell us that we're supposed to be focusing on? Those things are good and pure and beautiful and honest and so forth and so on. So again, we may have to look at the news, hear it, and then click it off and turn it off and go watch something that's going to make you laugh or something like that. So tell me, what do you think? What do you think as I go into as we go into our final question? All right. Our final question is on this one is like, in what ways do you see hatred and division all around you in the digital world? And who do you think benefits from this? In what ways um, have you intentionally or unintentionally contributed to the fuel to the fire? And how does Jesus' teaching in 1236 shape your moving forward? All right. So my answer to this final question was lots of arguments, anger, and fear is what I am seeing throughout. And the only one benefiting from this is the devil. He comes to steal, kill, destroy, and he has planted seeds of hatred and division. So we are doing this to ourselves. We have admittedly fallen into the trap of contributing fuel to the fire by sharing content of views. I do this sometimes. I'm admitting that I share views that I agree with. I will have to truly examine my words based on my emotions and my intentions, because out of my mouth, the heart speaks. Is it faith or is it fear? All right. So that was my answer to that last question. And the thing that came up to me also was Genesis 3:11. right? And I didn't get a chance to add it here, or did I? No, I did not. I didn't get a chance to add it to my list of scriptures. But the thing that was really important about Genesis 3:11, it was the question that God asked Adam and Eve after they ate of the tree, of the wrong tree, right? He asked them, like, when he asked them, like, where are you? And he says, oh, I hid because, I was naked, right? And God asked them, right, who told you that you were naked? And the next question was, did you eat of the tree that I told you not to eat of? All right. And I really thought about that when we was talking about the different trees. It's like God said, here's a tree of life, right? And then the other tree was the knowledge of good and evil. All right. I think a lot of us are eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and not necessarily from the tree of life. Because the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is all about information. It's about knowing. It's about, the world's wisdom. It's the tree of good and evil, right? So we're looking at social media, and it is feeding us well. It is feeding us good, it's feeding us evil, and we're eating of it. And therefore, is instilling fear, just like it did Adam and Eve, because once they ate of the wrong tree, their eyes were open, but it wasn't opened in a positive way. It was open to the point where they thought there was something missing, right? They were like, I'm naked. I'm not, it's like, but God was like, well, who told you that? The only way that you could have known that is if you were eating from the tree that I told you not to eat of. And I think that we have to be careful as we are feeding. Like, remember, like when I told you guys that we are feeding on something, right? All the time, whether you're putting it in your mouth, whether you're watching it with your eyes, or whether you're listening to it, you are feeding something, right? And I think that those of us who are like on edge, who are depressed, who are anxious, who are just angry and bitter, we're feeding on the wrong information, right? And so therefore, we have to kind of probably during this 40 days of Lent, I know people who are saying that they're staying off social media for the 40 days. They're watching only a little bit about news, and then they're going to, focus on the word, or focus on things that are going to make them happy, or things or projects that they need to be working on. But I think that we need to really think about, in this social media, as we're saying, what is Jesus saying about our digital life? It's like, what are you eating? What are you eating? Right? And Cheryl was like, Carol was saying, we need to be careful with what we share. Absolutely, we have to be careful, because again, are we fueling the fire? Right? And then are we causing somebody to eat something they shouldn't be eating? Right? And then Cheryl's like, a lot of it is to cause division. It really is, because right now, we're being torn up. The enemy is having a good time splitting us up with so much division. And Barbara says, yes, I agree that we should be speaking what God says. We are, or should be, the influencers, while we carefully consider how we respond. Absolutely, I agree. And Brenda saying sometimes people are not evil but misinformed. I agree. I agree, thinking that they are helpful. Satan attaches to people and they are not even aware of it. I agree. I agree. So if we are going to be God's change agents in the earth, we need to share more of the tree of life, and not so much the knowledge of good and evil. All right, so that was my take on the how to follow Jesus in our digital life. Right, that was just the introduction. So the next three, right, because we'll be back here again next Saturday, is to go on to the next one. So I didn't take a peek at it yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing what that will be. All right, so thank you for those who did do that. I hope that it was informative to you, because again, it just really did open my eyes. And again, just another shout out to my son, my oldest son, Donovan, who really encouraged me to say, hey, mom, you need to, just not watch your news station, but you should make sure that you're watching the other stations as well. And based on what he's saying, he's like, right, so because it's good, even the judge got to hear both sides, the offense and the defense, correct? All right, so moving on to the next thing. Again, we're talking about innovation and technology, even in our health, right? And I would just love if you can put it in the chat. What are you using right now in your digital innovation technology life to kind of look at the things that you are looking for in your health? So is it a watch, right? Is it your smartphone? All right, what are you using? I know that, as a birthday gift to myself, I treated myself to an aura ring, and I am loving it because it's telling me so much more than my watch. And again, because of the fact that, I the ministry that I dance with, we're not allowed to dance with watches, so I'm not getting my steps in, but I got my ring on. So now it's giving me a whole lot of information. So I am really, really excited about what I am learning. All right. So I use my phone. All right. I use my watch is connected to my phone. So it's tracking my steps. Well, I'm really getting excited about how it's tracking not only my heart rate, because that's what we did for February when we were doing cardiovascular health. We were starting to use our phone and for our watches to kind of rate, check our heart rates to make sure that we were working hard enough to get our heart stronger. Right. So now as we're getting into March and we're working about technology, there's so many and innovation of technology with our health. There's so many other things that we could be tracking other than, just heart rate and steps. Right. So again, I use my phone as well because I use my Fitness Pal, and I've gotten into a little bit of Lose It, which is an app that, tracks your food. Now, since I'm pretty much eating the same thing over and over, I have not been tracking. It's like my life is boring. I need to start doing some new things as far as my eating is concerned. But, spring is coming, we're going to get back on track here. All right. So Carol says that she uses her Fitbit and her phone. And Barbara says that she's using smartphone and her watch. Very good. So my next question is going to be, what are you tracking? Are you tracking just steps? Are you tracking heart rate? Or whatever? Tell me what you're tracking, because I know in the beginning I was doing like, okay, we got to get our steps in. Is but now, like I said, we're learning about, oh wow, the heart rate is important. But one of the things that I'm really starting to look at is my heart rate variability, which is called HRV, right? That is important. And it says that HRV is the variation in time between heartbeats measured in milliseconds. And HRV is a non-invasive technique that can be used to monitor your stress level, right, from day to day. And this is simple, relatively inexpensive way to monitor your recovery. Now, I'm realizing that your watch is starting to do that, especially if you have it where it's tracking your sleep. It is now tracking your HRV, which is your heart rate variability. All right. So Cheryl says she uses her smartwatch and phone, and she's looking to get the ring, and she's doing the sleep tracker. Great. And Carol said that she's tracking her heart rate, steps, and calories. Excellent. Right. So again, I don't know if you noticed that in the health space, we are really, really moving away from the calories. All right. And Liz for JC says she uses the Apple Watch, but have only been tracking calories burned and exercise minutes. Oh, that's fine. That's good too. But like I'm saying, that it's wearables. Everyone is doing some form of wearable, whether it could be, like I said, it could be a phone, it could be your watch, it could be a ring. Even now, some of the runners are wearing the straps that go around them, and there's a little piece that goes underneath, and it goes to either to their phone or to their watch or whatever, so they can really monitor their heart rate. Right. So what's really great is that wearables can be used at any time, and most are worn at all times in order to provide the most accurate, timely data. Right. So it's quick, it's easy. Various times wearables vary from manufacturer to manufacturer with respect to algorithms and sensors. Right. So again, you have to be, again, just like you have to test the data. It depends on the watch. It depends on the phone. It depends on the wearable. All right. So it depends if you have it tight enough, if it's reading properly. So you have to wear it a little while to be able to see if it's like, evening it out, or is there certain days are you doing more than others, right? So you have to like watch the data to see what's coming in. It's basically you are your own science experiment. You are doing your own research about your body, all right, about your heart rate, right? And that's why I would say I'm falling in love with the Aura Ring, because it's giving me a lot. I mean, it's matching a little bit with my watch, right, when I wear it at night, but it's giving me a little bit more. Like right now, it's like it takes about, I've been wearing it, I think about a week, almost 2 weeks. It takes about 2 weeks for it to kind of get your algorithm to see like what is happening, right? And now it's talking about my resilience. It's like, oh, we noticed that your stress level was here on this day, and you're doing more steps this way. You can tag things. It doesn't do diet. That's, but it can connect to your Samsung or health, or I'm not sure I'm not an Apple person. Don't hate me because I'm not an Apple person. We're not gonna go there, because we don't want division. We want unity. So it doesn't matter what watch you have. It doesn't matter if it's Apple or Samsung, Android. We are all one big happy algorithm family. Okay. All right. So it all depends. Like Fitbit is coming up. They are starting to like really push theirs because they want to stay in competition with Samsung and Apple and so forth. But again, some people want the watch, but they don't want all the extras. So it's all up to you, right? It's all up to you. Yes. Yes, it lives for JC. You can track your heart rate, right? Because that's important. That's very important, especially if you heard some stories about people's heart rates. It tracks your algorithm, and if it's out of orders, there's been stories where the watches and the phones are letting people know you need to go to emergency because we are detecting, something going on with the heart rate. There are stories out there. If you just Google it or whatever, these watches and these measuring tools are really saving people's lives. It's absolutely crazy. The other thing is, again, your resting heart rate, right? We were talking about how high our hearts go, but also what we learned in GAC is like how quickly your heart or how slowly your heart recovers is also very important. So that's your resting heart rate, which is RHR, right? It's something, your resting heart rate is counting the beats per minute while you are at rest. All right. So if you could be sitting around, for like a few minutes and not doing anything, probably like 5 to 10 minutes, regular, you're not, excited or laughing, it will give you your resting heart rate, right? And then the best time too is like when you first get up in the morning, if you're wearing your watch, just to see, right? But if you also, because of the fact that you have now the innovation and technology to rate your sleep, right, it'll let you know, your HRV, which is the heart rate variability. It's like, okay, your heart rate was, a little bit higher than normal, right? And that's really a good thing, because what were you dreaming about, all of a sudden in the middle of the night, and then you felt the body was real and your heart rate is like going up. The watch is like, okay, we need to let you know that your heart rate was a little bit higher than it normally is, and it's making you check yourself. Are you okay? Right? How do you feel today? Is it, are you stressed? Which, by the way, is another thing that we need to be looking for. So the normal range for your resting heart rate should be between 60 to 100 beats per minute. Now, the best time to do it is the first thing in the morning when you wake up, before eating and drinking, right? Now, a significant increase in your resting heart rate between 5 to 10 beats per minute could be a sign of overtraining or inadequate recovery. So again, knowing what your resting heart rate is normally and then seeing a spike in it could be a sign of stress. It could be that your body is not recovering. It could be that you haven't had enough hydration or water. Right. So those things you kind of be looking at, you checking yourself, because again, you have to be your own advocate as far as your health is concerned. Right. And you go back and say, okay, this is what's happening. Well, let me check. How was my day? Was I stressed? Did I go to bed too late? Did I not, did I exercise or have too much stimulation before going to bed? Because I know on Tuesday nights and Thursday nights, when I have rehearsal and I'm coming in after a high rehearsal, it takes me some time for my heart rate to come down, for me to relax, and my watch and my results are letting me know. So now, which is the amazing thing, it's tagging. Oh, they know now because I've been doing this for a while. It's like, okay, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we notice that this is happening. And it gives you a chart, which I'm like, this is amazing. I'm the geek, right? I'm like, this is amazing. It's like, wow, now you're actually being able to see what is going on with your body. And you don't have to be like, oh, what's happening? I don't feel good. It's helping you to be your advocate, your health advocate. All right. So what was the other thing? The last thing. Okay. So the other thing that's really good, we talked about it really short, is like sleep quality and quantity. Right? Research has demonstrated that sleep quality and quantity declines with significant increases in physical stress as a result of intense activity. So sleep disturbances might be a viable indicator of overtraining, right? So you could be doing a whole lot. You're stressed out. You're not sleeping. You're not taking time to recover. All right. So your wearable is now going to be able to let you know, hey, you're not recovering. Right. So then it may suggest, I know that with Samsung Health, it'll let me know every day, like, this is your energy level. This is what we think that your energy level is. And it will suggest, okay, your energy level dropped 3 points. We think that you need to take it easy today. You may want to, do some breathing exercises, meditation. It may say you may want to rest today, or you may want to, change your way of exercising, and it gives you a lot of things. And also, again, it tells me what my sleep quality was, right? So if my sleep quality was say, like, what was it today? It was a 79. So it says it was good, but it gave me a not it gave me a red flag on my restfulness. They said, even though you slept for 82% of your total sleep, we noticed that your my deep breathing, or my breathing, wasn't quite right. So it kind of shifted it's told me my restfulness was not enough. So even though I slept the right amount of hours, my sleep time was good. They say my recovery is good, mental recovery, but they noticed, because of the way that I was breathing, that something's not right. So it gives you like, okay, so why was I breathing? Was the room too hot? Was I tossing and turning? It gives you an idea of what's going on. All right. So again, it gives you like an insight. And so even though a lot of us are like, I don't like the wearables, I don't like the technology, we're going to have to like try to change our mindset about it a little bit, because it's for your health, right? It's not for anything else. So that is my thing about the technology. We'll probably have something else to talk about for the next week. All right. But if you have any questions or something that you want to talk about in regards to innovation and technology as far as your health is concerned, let me know in the chat. For those of you who have, we're in our WhatsApp group or have my email, feel free to email me as well. And let's talk about it, because this is the month of innovation and technology. Let's find out how we can live our best lives in the technology world. And again, we don't have to be afraid of it anymore. All right. It's not something to be afraid of. It's something that we need to use, all right, for our benefit. All right. So do we have any questions before we check off? We've been on for like 53 minutes, and I don't want to keep you guys for the whole time. I know that it is Saturday night, and guys, don't forget, technology again. We don't have to set our clocks, especially our TVs, computers, smartwatches, phones. They're all going to go ahead of us, for us. So the only time you're going to have to change your clock is going to be on your microwaves and in your car. All right. All right. Okay. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you so much. So if there's not any questions, I'll stay on for like a second or so. All right. But again, I am loving my aura ring. It is really, giving me, talking about my resilience. It lets me tag. It talks about my daytime stress. It lets me know if I was relaxed or whatever. My heart rate. And it gives you like the whole week. It tells you the whole week, and it's like it's still learning. It's like, oh, we're still learning about you, and we'll let you know new information. Now it's talking about my resilience. It's like, oh, your resilience is good. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys being here. Wonderful. All right. So again, thank you for helping me launch off my new platform. I'm still trying to work things out. The share worked today, so I'm excited. I'm excited. So again, this will be available if you want to share this with someone. Invite somebody to come on next week. All right, we're trying to really promote the GAC Health and Fitness Ministry and let them know that we're doing more than just exercising. All right, we are learning about ways to make our lives optimal. All right. So, with that said, guys, thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and I will see you at the next live. Take care. Bye bye.